Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Sophia Saeed. I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Center of Arkansas, and it is my distinct honor, along with my co-facilitator and moderator, Dr. Jay McDaniels from the Center of Process Spirituality, to bring you these interfaith educational classes that we started last year in fall. Our first session had 9 classes in it, and we talked about diverse religions. That was the fall of 2019. Before I go on, if you're not speaking, I think it would be really nice if you can mute your mics. That way we don't have the background noise coming in. So I welcome you all to our interfaith educational classes, which we started last year in fall of 2019 with a course on world religions. In spring 2019, we offered Cousins on a Journey course, which was heavily focused on Abrahamic faiths. And then for the last 10 weeks, we are offering this course called Interfaith Explorations. And today is the last class of our Interfaith Explorations session. We will have a 2 weeks break before we start our next classes. So a couple of household items before we go towards the class. Right after I finish this class today, I'm going to send you all of you who are in the class and those who are not able to join us, but will get the recording. I'm going to send you all a survey about to get the feedback from you all about our classes, and also to ask you what would you want us to offer next in the next session, which is starting on July 8th. So please watch out for that email and fill that survey, because that is going to help me and Dr. Jay McDaniels a lot in designing our next session of classes. Now, having said that, on Wednesday, July 1st, we are offering a workshop on dreams and spirituality. It is at the same time. It is at noon, 12 noon, Wednesday, July 1st, a workshop on dreams and spirituality. If you are interested, please, I will send you all the flyer also today. Please register for the class. You have to register for that workshop independently from these classes in order to join that workshop. And now, last thing, coming to today's class. Thank you for taking time out to learn about this very important issue. I'm not going to talk about race at all, because you all are familiar with what is going on in our country, what is echoing on the streets of our nation, and what is burning in our hearts and minds every moment of every day. We have a panel of excellent presenters. We have 3 presenters today who will be talking on the perspective of race from a religious and spiritual context. So I'm going to introduce all 3 of them, and then my co-facilitator and host, Dr. Jay McDaniels, will moderate today's discussion. Our first presenter is Philip Spivey. You all know him. He comes from UCA, University of Central Arkansas, where he has been a professor of Jewish Studies, World Religions since 1999. He serves in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, and we are very excited to have you, Philip. Thank you so much for joining us today. After Philip, next we have Reverend Anika Whitfield, who is an ordained Baptist minister, a strong advocate for human rights, equity, justice, and people's democracy. If you're on Facebook, you must have followed her advocating for the public school system, in which she has been so committed to serve the students and the parents in Little Rock. And she is definitely one of the leaders that you will hear about a lot whenever there's an issue about social justice. And she will be giving us the Christian perspective on race. And lastly, but definitely not the least, is Imam Muhammad Nawaz from Medina Institute. Imam Nawaz is our Imam and religious scholar at Medina Institute and Mosque. Originally hailing from India, Imam Nawaz has been here for several years, and he leads a phenomenal congregation in educating us and also leading the prayer worship services. I am very excited to have all 3 of you here. Each one of you will have 10 minutes to talk about race from a spiritual perspective, and then after the 30 minutes of teaching, Dr. McDaniels will moderate a question and answer session. With that said, I give it to you, Jay.
I just want to echo what Sophia said. I think that we're eager to hear from each of our panelists, and we're eager to have a very open discussion thereafter. But I don't think our discussion can be informed until first we listen. And that's what we want to do. So rather than say anything now, I really want to open it to our panelists and hear from you. If it's possible to keep what you have to say within 10 minutes, I'm so sorry, but then that will maximize time for the discussion that we want thereafter. So to begin with, Reverend Whitfield, would you like to get us started? Are you willing to so do?
Thank you again for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity to share about something that burns in my heart a lot, and that is making sure that we are justice and liberating people, that we help to lift up love in everything that we do. So from a Christian perspective, when we talk about racial or racism, I'll just call it what it is, systemic racism. We look at the Bible and we look at examples of what does Christianity say about racism and being people who accept racist ways. And yes, just yesterday, someone asked me to share why I use the language defund the police. And so this is kind of the perspective that I'd like to come from today. So defund the police for me literally means taking away a system that was built and ingrained in racism, a racism that was focused on making sure that people who had been recently liberated from enslavement in Americans' colonial society, to making sure that there was some way to control those lives and the economics of their livelihood. And so police were introduced not to serve and protect Blacks or African Americans, but was to serve and protect the wealth of white nationalism and to serve and protect the sustaining of that greed. And so when I say defund the police, for me, it means removing the funds, removing that system of racism, and moving those funds to systems that serve and protect community. I'm thinking specifically as I responded to one of my family members and then also a friend, that when I think about Jesus and I think about the sacrificial love that was given, not based on a person's race, not given on a person's identity, not given on a person's gender, but based just on the fact that Jesus showed love to all neighbors, any person that was breathing, any person that was created, any person that was existing. And so I think about this very critical time in our faith where Jesus was being held, was being detained and arrested by the soldiers, that this was to be his final fate. And Jesus's response was not that of a retaliatory response. It was not hate for hate. It was not violence for violence. It was not fear for fear. It was not greed for greed. But his response was a response of love. And so as one of the disciples that was praying and sitting, or was supposed to be praying with Jesus, as he was praying and reflecting and asking God to give him the strength to carry this mission of love, of sacrificial love, of giving your life for others, Jesus responds by placing his hand on the ear of the very soldier that was there to arrest him, to take him to what was to be his fate, to take him to his crucifixion cross, to take him from his life and breathing, and to take his last breath away from him. That this very soldier, that Jesus put his hand on his ear to restore his ear. And so for me, that is one of the most powerful lessons as to why we need to defund the police. Because defunding the police says, I see you too, soldier. I see you too, police officer. Someone who has, by the empire's design and request, had you come and kill, had you come and arrest someone who came to help save the world, someone who came to give love. And so I can't teach you how to love by fighting you back. I can't teach you how to love by hating you back. I can't teach you how to love by doing unto you the evil that you are doing unto me. The way that I express and show you what anti-racism looks like, what anti-hate looks like, what anti-greed looks like, is by showing you love. And so some people said to me, well, isn't this the same Jesus? Isn't this the same Nazarene who went into the temple and started turning over the tables? And I said, yes, there's something about a righteous love that won't allow you to keep doing things that are hurting other people and deceiving yourself and misrepresenting God. And so Jesus wasn't physically harming anyone, but Jesus was disrupting the normalcy that people had been carrying on and saying, enough of this. This is supposed to be the house of prayer, not the den of thieves. And so we would do well and be wise to learn from our ancestors, to learn from our prophets, to learn as a Christian from our Savior, who showed us what saving grace looks like, who showed us what resurrection, forgiveness, and love looks like, who showed us how to walk in a way where race is not the issue. Race does not become the trump card. Race does not become supreme. Race does not become the focus, but the focus is on love. And when we focus on love, not only can we heal, not only can we repair, not only can we restore, but we can resurrect people so that they can live well and be well. And I don't know if I went over my time, but that is what I'd like to share today.
Thank you so much. And no, you didn't go over your time perfect and so helpful. Dr. Spivey, how about going next?
Okay. Shalom, everyone. As diverse communities of unique and creative individuals, every religion today may have reached a convergence between beliefs and actions when we're trying to understand racial justice and injustices within our communities, both religious and public. Historically, Jewish people are no strangers to discrimination and persecution. Today, I would say most Jewish Americans are committed to publicly voicing our opposition to the persecution of racial, ethnic, and religious groups. The hope in Judaism is for all of us to join together and heal the world, tikkun olam in Hebrew. That is to heal the world spiritually, politically, and ecologically. So when trying to understand the many Jewish American approaches to race, it is very important to understand who the Jewish people are, our sometimes conflicted views about racial justice, and how Judaism as a religion can help all of us to bridge between our beliefs and actions. So here are 3 aspects of Jewish American approaches to race that everybody needs to know. The first is the Jewish people are not a race and never has been. No more than there is a Christian race or a Muslim race. By the mid-20th century, there was very little known about race, ethnicity, and genetics. And so beginning in the late 19th century, scientific literature began promoting the notion that Jewish people were different from white Anglo-Saxon Christians because Jews have a particular set of genetics that define them as being Jewish. This out-of-date assertion has long been debunked, but is still around among some people, namely racist, anti-Semites, and Islamophobes, those who have both hatred of African Americans, Jews, and Muslims alike. The truth is this: Like Christianity and Islam, Judaism is a multi-racial religion spanning over many diverse ethnic communities. Today, Judaism is a monotheistic religion of 14.8 million Jewish people worldwide, with most Jews living in the United States. And within the United States, the largest Jewish ethnic group is the Ashkenazi. That's Jewish people of European descent. Ancient Jewish people in the Middle East evolved from two ethnic groups, Hebrews and Israelites, about 2,700 years ago. Modern Judaism is now a global religion comprising of many races and ethnic groups. For example, there are and have been many Jewish African Americans: Tiffany Haddish, Drake, Sammy Davis Jr., Alicia Garza, who is the co-founder of International Black Lives Matter, civil rights activist Julius Lester, and Rabbi Elisa Stanton, a female African-American ordained as the first American Jewish rabbi in 2005. Question: by looking at me and hearing me, how would you ever know you were speaking to a Jewish person? The fact is this: Judaism is a diverse religion and a way of life. It's not a race or one ethnicity. So in Judaism, our central sacred text is the Torah, meaning instructions. We read and practice its teachings. And there really is no direct mention of racial relations in the Torah. However, there is a passage in the Torah that sets the groundwork for how Jews view race and racial relations in the future. Quote, "You shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. Reprove your kinsman, but incur no guilt because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your countrymen. Love your fellow neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." Leviticus 19, verses 17 through 18. So as Jews, it is our sacred duty to seek justice for others and ourselves, letting it rise and flow like a mighty river. Another sacred Jewish text is called the Talmud, meaning study, and in it there's a creative story about how God created all human beings from the various pigments of Earth's soil. The purpose was that no human could ever claim they were superior to others simply based on skin color. So in Judaism, beginning in the 19th century, many Jewish people began immigrating into the United States. And like many of ethnic groups, Jewish people were segregated to their own neighborhoods along with African American communities. And so Jews became active in the civil rights movement in the 1950s, the 1960s, out of a deep sense of justice. World War II had ended. Media technology had increased, and now we have race riots starting to appear on TV and brought to attention. So in the 1970s and the present, Jewish and American relations have slowly crumbled. Why? Well, out of many social and cultural misunderstandings, Jewish people have learned that identifying one's pursuit of justice as the same struggle as African American civil rights, as the same cause, is problematic. The struggles are similar, but they are not the same. They are both unique struggles with their own history and meaning. Let those who are oppressed be heard over those who offers encouraging kind of words, but no action. Want to learn about the Holocaust? Ask a Jewish person. Want to understand Islamophobia? Ask a Muslim. Want to understand racial inequality in the United States? Ask an African American. We can unify in one cause, pursuing racial justice, bringing to the table our own unique religious struggles and stories of hope. So let's believe, and most importantly, take action, not as one and the same, but as unique paths to achieving social justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philip Spivey from UCA. Imam Muhammad Nawaz, would you go next, please? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you all. It's my greetings. Hope you all are doing well in this pandemic. May God protect you all and your families and your close ones. And may God keep all of them under his protection. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and honor. It's a privilege for me to be part of this wonderful group. Let me start from the beginning of the creation. When in the Quran, the second chapter, God, Allah subhanallah, Allah means the God. He states about when he created Adam. So Adam is one of the prophets and one of the first human being who was created by Allah in Islam, and many other faiths believes that. When God told the angels that he is going to create a human being or a Khalifa, the word God used to establish justice on the planet. So when God told the angels that I'm going to create a Khalifa or Adam, the angels, they requested God in a form of request. They said, are you going to create someone who is going to cause bloodshed and corruption on the planet? So the God told them that I know what you are not aware of. I want you to keep that request or from the angels to the God in mind. I'll come back to it later. When God created Adam, so the purpose, the process of creation of Adam, God has mentioned several places about Adam and his entire story in Quran. More than 25 verses talking about that. God says in one place, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ, which means we created man from sounding clay, black mud, and molded into shape. And Allah has used different terms, different verbs, different nouns for the thing which he has created human being from. Allah says turab in one place. Turab means the dry clay. Another place says teen. Teen means mud when it's mixed with the water, when the clay is mixed with the water. And hama'im masnoon, it's pretty much same meaning, but it adds, when the clay is mixed with the mud, with water, sometimes it gives you some sort of smell. That is called hama'im masnoon. And another place says salsal. Salsal means when you mix clay with the water, and when it gets dried, when you knock on it, it gives you some sort of belling sound, like tan tan sound. And then another place says fakhar. So when God mixed with the clay with the water, when he he burned that clay to make it more stronger, so that turned into black. And before God started that process, Allah, he sent Gabriel to the planet, to the earth, to gather the clay from the entire world and all different types of clay, black, white, and brown, and whatever the color exists in the world today. All these clays, God commanded Gabriel to gather, and he created Adam, the very first human being, with that clay. And when Iblis, devil, shaitan, we call it Satan, when he saw that Adam's shape is ready, he said that it seems like the God, Allah, is going to honor this human being. He is going to give favor to him over me. And if that happens, I will promise that I will destroy all of his offspring. So Iblis sort of recognized that he is going to get honored by Allah, and then he promised that I will be misleading all of them. So having said that, and then in Quran, another place Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that he has honored children of Adam. So he created Adam from all different colors of clay, white, black, brown, and all different. And then he said he has honored children of Adam. So this honor is not specifically to any specific group or any specific religion or any specific ethnicity or any specific tribe. That honor is for every single human being, no matter which color he belongs to, no matter which religion he belongs to, no matter which ethnicity he belongs to, no matter which country he belongs to. So that honor is for every single human being. So Iblis, he found out one of the easiest way to mislead people to cause this the racism issue in between them. Because if you look at why Iblis he became a cursed one. Iblis was the first one when he was commanded by Allah God to prostrate Adam. So Iblis refused by saying that I am better than him because you created me from fire and you created him from clay, and fire is better than clay. So that thought he had, the very first thought he had in his mind when he looked at the honor of Adam alayhi salam as a human being, so he said, I am better than him. And that's what he used. That's the idea he used to cause corruption and bloodshed on the planet. That he started deceiving people and whispering them that you are better than him because of your color, because of your ethnicity, because of your background, because of your religion, or because of whatever we say, whatever they say the things today. And if you look at the problem in racism, this is one of the key problem, because whoever is being a victim of it and whoever is being violent because of the racism, he is actually thinking of himself better than the other one. That's what leads him towards causing corruption and bloodshed on the planet. Subhanallah. So Iblis, he used that idea that letting others feel that they are better than others, that's what caused towards bloodshed and corruption. And that's why the angels objected before, not objected, they requested God that, oh Allah, are you going to create someone who's going to cause bloodshed and corruption? I'll finish in 1 minute. So for that, God sent 124,000 prophets, and all of their purpose in Islam, all of their purpose, and all of them come from different backgrounds, such as Moses. In our recording, our narration says that he had a dark skin, and 1/3 of Quran speaks about Prophet Moses. And all the prophets, their purpose of coming into this world is to protect people from causing bloodshed and corruption, and لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ, as Quran says, to establish justice for every single human being. And that's the message the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, came with, and he never compromised on this issue. Though the chief of the Quraysh, because when he came, interestingly, it was tribal culture, it was racism culture, and he never compromised on that issue. The chief of the Quraysh, the tribe, they came with the proposal before the Prophet saying that if you can separate these African American slaves such as Bilal and Ammar ibn Yasir, and these were great companions of the Prophets, if you can separate them from our gatherings, then we'll accept Islam. But Prophet never compromised on that. And the very last sermon of the Prophet, before a couple of days he passed away, is that no white is superior over the black, no black is superior over the white, no Arab is superior over a non-Arab, and no non-Arab is superior over an Arab. And that's the struggle, that's the mission, and that's the vision the Prophet came with, and that's what as Muslims we should carry on. With that, I pray to God that may God grant us an opportunity to follow the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad and all other prophets who came before him. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And what we want to do now is have a collective discussion. And I'll get it started, but then open it up and perhaps I can ask each of you a question. So you may have noticed that I'm white, and I grew up in a middle-class white background in Texas, and very much protected from or insulated from all kinds of diversity. I think I had one Jewish friend. No, I had many Jewish friends, but they were secular Jewish. They weren't religiously Jewish. I had no Muslim friends. Everybody was like me. And so I was taught that it's bad to be racist. I was lucky enough to grow up in a family that taught me that you don't judge other people on the basis of their skin. But one thing I was never taught was that I might myself, along with everybody like me, be the beneficiaries of a system of privilege. And so I was never taught about colonialization. I was never taught about systemic evil. And so I thought the problem of racism was simply an issue of getting your personal consciousness in order and not being racist at a personal level. It really took me a long time, and it's still taking a long time, to realize that I'm a beneficiary of a system that has really harmed others in horrible ways. And so one of the traditions that I can learn from in my own, Abraham, I'm a Christian, but I'm also deeply influenced by Islam and Judaism. We have a tradition of repentance. And repentance doesn't simply mean to say, I'm sorry. Repentance means to be honest about not just what you've done, but what your people have done. And then to turn around from that and do differently. So that raises the question to me, each of you have said, you know, my religion teaches good things about race. Islam teaches good things about race. Judaism, good things about race. Jesus, good things about race. But what to do with those good things? And so to what degree do you think that white people need to come to grips with the tradition of white supremacy and white privilege? And in your view, should that be, is that an important part of at least my response, and maybe our response to the situation at hand? Reverend Whitfield, can you take that question?
Sure. So I just want to be clear about the question that you're asking. And I think I heard in the preface that you were saying that these faith communities, that they teach good things about race relations, or they teach good things. And I'd like to go a little bit further by saying that it's one thing to teach, but the best lessons are the ones that are walked. And so if all I have is cerebral understanding, but I have no change of my conscious walk, no change of my heart, no change of my actions, then I'm just a sounding cymbal. I'm just a clanging noise. I'm actually a part of the problem. Because I think what all of our faiths call us to do is to be the living example, to be the living witness, to be the living walk of our faith. And so I would charge this or challenge us by recognizing that no, Christians haven't gotten it right. Christians it was European American Christians who came to America and colonized it. It was European American Christians who imposed genocide on indigenous people. So absolutely Christians don't get it, or people who call themselves to be Christian. And so again, I encourage people, because to be a disciple of Christ means not only to be one who's a student of Christ, but to be a follower of Christ. And so in my faith, it says that I don't want to just talk to you about what fishing looks like. I don't want to tease you with a few fish. And I don't want to even show you what bait is and how you can use it. What I'd like to do is teach you how to become a fisher person, and so that you can go out and enjoy the joy of bringing more people into this fold. And so I would challenge us by saying it is not enough to teach it. You've got to live it.
Well, I can't remember what my question was, but I think you sure gave a good answer, and I appreciate it. I think part of my question, if I want to live it and not just hear the teachings, if I want to live it, what does that look like at a practical level, particularly for those who've enjoyed the benefits of white privilege?
So it looks like the very same thing that you said that growing up you were kind of oblivious to, right? And so you said that you were able to move through life, and so other people that are othered in life, people who now you've been awakened to are othered, like African Americans, like persons who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, like Latinx community, Hispanic community members, specifically indigenous peoples, because there's a vast variety of indigenous peoples, it is, we all have the same desires and needs, right? We all want not only to live, but to be able to live well, to have healthy water to drink, to have the opportunity to live wherever we would like to live, to be able to work and get compensation that is equitable to anyone else that's working, that is treated with and seen every morning for the past month or so. I've been a part of a morning prayer with the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, and it's called a Sawubona prayer. And in the Zulu term, Sawubona is Sawubona, Sawubona, and it says, I see you, I hear you, I honor you, and I respect you, and I love you. It's hard to say those words to people and not show the actions of it. And so, love is radical, but at the same time, it's absolutely simple. We don't need a physicist or a rocket scientist. We don't need a UN conference on this. Treat people with love. It is really that simple.
Thank you again. And Philip, would you like to build upon that or add something to that?
Yeah, I agree by and large with Reverend Whitfield that it's not simply enough to just simply believe anymore. Jewish people, we've been developing ideas and debating ideas for centuries, and after experiencing centuries of anti-Semitism in Europe and here in the United States, there's been a mentality to make a distinction between Jewish people, non-Jewish people, Jews, and other religions. And in many ways, this has created a divide between us as Jewish people and African Americans and their struggle as well. I grew up below Pettagene Mountain in a group in the woods with about 600 people, very much similar to Dr. McDaniel. It was a homogenous culture, and changing one's perspective and one's consciousness is just not going to be enough. We're going to have to put it into action. And a part of that is that as Jewish people, when it comes to racial justice in the United States, we're going to have to step aside. We're going to have to turn this over to those who have been hurted and most have been affected the most. the African American community. And we will join you in any way we can. But I think it is a serious mistake to assume some type of leadership just because your unique people have suffered in the past. This is not the same. This is not the same.
Thank you, Philip. Imam Nawaz, do you want to build upon what has been said? Is there anything you would like to add at this point?
Jay, I think Imam Nawaz was at a doctor's appointment at UMS and he came out to speak, and I think
he had to go.
Yeah, because he messaged me and I think he has left.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's open it up to anybody that would like to comment or add an insight in the time that we have remaining. We've got about 12 minutes or so. I have another question if nobody has anything to say, but let's jump in. So, Sophia, I can't see everybody. Can you? I don't have the gallery view. Now I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Does anybody have a question or a thought or a comment that you would like to bring to the table now?
Do you mind if I elaborate a little bit more? And I don't know, was somebody about to talk? I didn't want to interrupt.
I don't think so. So go ahead, please.
Okay. So really the metaphor, one of the ones that comes to my mind, because a lot of people have been concentrating particularly on George Floyd. And I want to remind us that here in Arkansas, there are several people who have been murdered by police officers. One of the persons that I advocate for their family, Bradley Blackshire, who had over 15 bullets shot directly at his chest. The police officer on the stand said that he was intending to kill him and that he did it, and that the chief of police fired him from his job. His name is Charles Starks. And then the city, the oversight committee had a hearing and decided that he would lose his job, that they stood with the termination of his job as well as his loss of his income. And then Judge Timothy Fox turned around and reinstated him on his job and reinstated all of his lost wages. And that police officer is now back on the force. And there was a video, very damning, very hard to watch, very similar to George Floyd's. And yet this person is still allowed to serve as a police officer. And the people that are crying out the most are the family members. But I would suggest, and you know, with all due respect to everyone else, it might not be the time for European American people or whites to lead. It's definitely a good time to ally. But I would say it's because of your silence that we're still in this situation. It's because you won't speak up. You won't call Timothy Fox and tell him that he was wrong for doing that. You won't call Larry Jegley and tell him it's past time for him to file and press charges against Charles Starks. And so for me, I don't want you to be silent. I want you to be as outraged, and you might not ever be as outraged as we are because you haven't been hung, lynched, hosed down, followed in grocery stores, told that what neighborhoods and communities you can live in, had taxes taken from you, mistreated and abused over and over again. I mean, so it's probably impossible for you to feel the pain that Black people or African Americans feel in America with the intensity and the repetitive trauma that we feel every day. It's likely impossible. But I think that there are some places of empathy where people can say, you know what, your neck is on my sister. She cannot breathe. Take it off. Governor Hutchinson, we have people in our state right now who are being held in state prisons because they had possession of marijuana, not because they were mass killers, not because they were mass murderers. And they are dying. They have a death sentence right now because they are in state prisons where COVID is rapidly moving and there is no state plan to protect those persons. But it's okay to other them because you've labeled them and termed them as criminals. But they're just as human. They need as much love and compassion as anybody else does. They need restorative justice. And restoring them is not killing them. Restoring them is not sentencing them to a death penalty. They're workers in Northwest Arkansas that work in poultry plants, as well as people here in North Little Rock that are working at the Tyson plant, that are being forced to work in conditions but where they are right beside other people, and COVID again is passing from one person to another. And the state keeps willfully saying that you can practice physical distancing, knowing full well that people can't do that in most of their jobs. And so it's like this herd immunity that they are trying to push over, and the wealthiest people, the people that have the most money, resources, and who could alleviate and relieve this, happens to not be African Americans or Blacks. They're not Indigenous people. They're not Latinx people. They're not a part of the LGBTQ plus community. But we are the ones who are being discriminately impacted by their negligence. And so I would ask, you know, you might not call it leading, but I'm going to ask you to step up, stand up, talk up, call, insist, demand. And I brought this Matthew scripture up on the side to say, when you see people hungry, I don't need you to tell me I'm going to pray for you to get something to eat. Ask me. And I was sharing with a brother today. So there's one thing to be sympathetic, and there's another thing to be empathetic. When I actually see you, when I practice sawabona, I ask you because my faith tells me that God will give me the desires of my heart. So I don't just ask you if I can bring you something to eat or if you're hungry. I say to you, what would you like? What would nourish you right now? And I will go out of my way to get that for you, because I do have some resources. I do have a vehicle. I do have some money, and I might not be able to give you everything that you want, but if you tell me what it is, maybe I can help you. And at some point that translates not to just being givers, because there's a lot that people owe back to us, but just taking your knee off my neck so I can get it for myself. Because sometimes I can't eat because you have your neck on my knee, but your knee on my neck. And that knee on my neck is that you've taken the grocery stores out of my neighborhood and community, but you want me to eat healthy and eat well. I don't have a way to get to a grocery store. You say you want me to invest. There's no bank in my neighborhood. You say you want me to learn. There's no library in my neighborhood. You said you want me to practice physical health and fitness. There are no open parks or sidewalks to get to them in my neighborhood. So again, this opening of our eyes and seeing that there's a difference between the way that some people live in America, some people live in Arkansas, some people live in Little Rock, some people live in other parts of our state, than the way that some of us are on this call live. And if we are serious about our faith, we won't be able to be quiet about it. We won't be able to not get engaged. We won't be able to just keep our eyes closed or put our blinders on or go about our business as it doesn't impact us. It should impact every last one of us. I've talked too long. I'm sorry. I'm a preacher.
All right, we have some more time. Anybody have a comment or a thought that they would like to add at this moment? Steve, unmute.
Okay. First of all, I would just like to say, and I've shared before about my son, who I provide basically primary care for, and Dr. Whitfield has loved my son for probably 15 years and been kind and compassionate. And early on, I was never there, never around, but Josh has always talked about Dr. Whitfield. And as I began to have to go to those appointments, there is always a peace and there's always a presence. And I just wanted to just say, she loves everyone, because y'all, Josh is whiter than I am, and I'm pretty doggone white. And I have always felt loved, and Dr. Whitfield, I just want to say thank you, because I think you are an example of someone that loves everyone. And I do feel that that's really what we're called to do. And so much of the time, we want to label people, we want to label races, we want to label religions. And I think sometimes it just starts with learning someone's name and speaking their name and listening and connecting, because I think what happens when we actually see someone, what begins to happen, we begin to see ourselves in them, and we realize there is no separation. We are one. We cannot be separated. God is in us. We're in God, and we're all one together, but we've been deceived. And I have been a part of a privileged system, and I was never really aware of that. I didn't know that. And my background is very diverse, and most of my friends growing up were Jewish. And I lived in New York and Central Jersey, and the Jews loved me. And I've mentioned this on here before, I think, but you know, I was the only blonde hair, blue-eyed kid at almost every function I ever went to. And I didn't realize how different I really was, because all of these Jewish families loved me. And it was the same love that I feel from Dr. Whitfield, and that I feel from Sophia, and that I feel from many of you. So, and I probably talked too long, but just getting to know other people and actually seeing them, I think that's the first step.
Thank you, Steve. And we have time perhaps for one more comment or question, and then I'll make a comment as well. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Melanie, you look like you do. You have one? Okay. Anybody? Philip, please.
Yes, I had a question for the Christians and Muslims on the panel. And I'm not sure if this is the case for Islam, I suspect it may not be, but if God is the essence of unconditional love, Christians in particular, how can you bring the strength to unconditionally love racists, the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis, because I can't, and I refuse to. So can you give me some type of understanding of why someone who's Jewish like me should unconditionally love a Nazi?
So there's a difference between love and like. And so I personally like to say it's a whole bunch of people that I do not like their ways, don't agree with them, but I do know that love covers a multitude of sins. And I have personally witnessed enemies or people who did not like me, that I was able to consistently not focus on them, but focus on love and win people over with the love that I showed them. And so I think love is radical enough that it changes people's hearts. I think that people are redeemable. I think that, but by grace, but by God's forgiveness for me, I'm just a wretched soul, right? And so because I need that forgiveness, because I need that grace, then I feel compelled. I mean, in fact, the word of God commands us to show that same compassion and love towards others. Is it easy? Let me tell you what Jesus said. And this is my only imagination, so I can't tell you this is exactly what Jesus thought. But I'll tell you what he said first, and then I'll tell you what I think he thought. Jesus said to God, as it was time for him to take the cup, Nevertheless, so backing up, the thing he said before that, if it be thy will, take this cup from me. But if it not be, nevertheless, thy will be done, not mine. And so in my spiritual imagination, Jesus was thinking, now it's some folks that have been doing some pretty evil things that I've been seeing. And I've been walking around here showing people love, feeding thousands, healing, restoring. But I've had to do that because people have taken food away from people who need it. I've had to do that because people have withheld health care and medical care and wellness for people. I've had to do that because the people on this earth are so selfish. So God, is it even worth saving these folks? I mean, I know you created them, Father. I know, Mother, you created these people, but really? And so I think that Jesus in that moment realized you can't leave here. You can't say mission accomplished until you accomplish the mission. And if you are love, then love conquers all of that. And so to me, that's when Jesus put a comma in it and said, but nevertheless, not all these less issues, not all of this hate, not all of these KKKs, not all of these persons who have prosecuted people. And in that time, of course, it wasn't them, but Jesus could see forward and in the future. So I can't focus on the less. I've got to focus on the more. And God, you are more. You are more than I could ever imagine. You are so much more that whatever I need, you supply. And I need your help to get through this because somebody's about to come arrest me right now that's going to draw a sword. And I need your loving compassion to heal that ear. So yeah, I think it's because it's in part what's required of me, but I also think it's required of me because I expect it for myself. I want people to love me even when they see that they need to hate me. I want people to see why they need to love me.
So our time is up, really. We normally close at about this time. We're 4 minutes past as far as I can tell. I'd like to put in just say something that comes from what the Imam said that we didn't pick up on, but I just want us to think about it as we leave. He pointed out the tendency in the human heart to think that you're better than others. And, it's pervasive. It's in racism. It's in nationalism. It's in all kinds of isms. And one place that it has also been present is in religion. And organized religions they gather a sense of identity. We're a group, but along the way, we come to think that we're better than them. And so we really have the truth and they don't. We have the right to want to bring them into our fold because our fold is better than their fold. And that particular form of sin, I think it's sin, has not always been characteristic of Judaism. Judaism has not been a proselytizing religion, but it certainly has been a characteristic of Christianity. And Christians, I'm among them, we've done a lot of good things, but we've done a lot of bad things under the banner of we have the right way and you don't. So I just want, as we leave, this is what I thought when Imam Nawaz said what he thought. I thought, my own religion has had some better thanness in it. My people. So it may be that the seeds of racism are also the seeds of religionism when it becomes idolatry. It makes a god of its own community. So I just would like to leave us with that thought. I'd also like to leave us with, this is our last session. And don't we all feel a tremendous sense of gratitude to Sophia Saeed for pulling this together? And if there's a way to applaud, here comes. So, and we also, I know Sophia and I also really want to thank you for being with us. And we're something of a community now, and we really appreciate it. And we need you. So thanks to everybody, and you're going to get that evaluation from Sophia. If you don't fill out that evaluation, we will never forgive you. We'll love you, but we won't forgive you. No, I'm kidding, but do fill out those evaluations. We need guidance for the future. Thanks to all our panelists, Dr. Whitfield, Dr. Spivey, the Imam. So peace to all. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Anika. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It was lovely seeing you after a long time.
Yes.